Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the worship for the Mayor of Gravesham.
Good evening, everyone. If we can remain upstanding for our Mayor's Chaplain reflection and prayer. Thank you.
Meeting ahead this evening. Am I on? There we go. Good evening. Just a few brief words to lead into my prayer for you all for tonight. So it will soon be a time where I can wish you all a very happy new year, rather sooner than you realise, because in the church calendar, a new year always begins on Advent Sunday, which is the weekend after next. And Advent, of course, is full of so many wonderful themes, but sadly, they get lost in the busyness and the chaos of Christmas preparation. So Advent is a theme full of hope, of expectation, anticipation, waiting and preparation. And it is a time of new beginnings, which are all themes that seem very apt for your meeting this evening. And each of the 4 Sundays of Advent in church, we light a candle to represent different people who have guided us to Jesus. And if, like me, you're a fan of the 2 Ronnies, it's a time of year where I can make my annual 4 candles joke. So as we approach Advent and the December busyness, can I encourage you all to light a candle at home whenever you can? A chance for you to reflect, to be still, whatever your belief is, and just take that moment of stillness in the quiet. And if it is your custom, to pray. So may the light of the Advent hope be in your discussions this evening. Let us pray. So, Lord, we so pray for this evening's meeting, for all that needs discussing and deciding upon with local government reorganisation. Lord, give us all wisdom, your guidance, your clarity, and may we all be reminded in Advent about new beginnings, about hope and expectation as we await the amazing news that a child is born for us, Jesus Christ the Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Jim. May I ask you all to remain standing for a minute silent for our lovely Honorary Freeman, Makan Singh, who was also a past mayor. I think he certainly made his mark. So, minute silence. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please do be seated. So, if I can read the script about live streaming, I'm sure you all know it by heart. But good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of Gravesham Borough Council. It's housekeeping matters even. This meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded. The recording will be uploaded to YouTube within 2 working days, where it can be accessed by everyone. Members, please use the microphone in front of you when talking and ensure you turn your microphone off once you have finished speaking. Another member or officer will not be able to speak if your microphone is still on. Please note that the council's visual equipment may, on some occasions, focus on or near to the public gallery area. Therefore, those in attendance at this meeting may be filmed or recorded. Attendance at this meeting signifies your agreement to this. If, as a member of the public, you do not wish to be filmed or recorded, please inform a council staff member in attendance and we will try to assist where reasonably possible. On hearing the fire alarm, we ask all attendees to immediately evacuate the building. Please evacuate via the nearest fire exits and make your way to the community square outside of the reception doors. Thank you. So moving on to the item 2 of the agenda, apologies for absence. Chief Exec.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies have been received from councillors Helen, Ashenden, Hills, King and Ridges.
Thank you. Item 3, to declare any interest members may have in the items contained on this agenda. When declaring an interest, a member must state what their interest is. If I may just bring in the Chief Exec on this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as members will be very familiar with by now, we will automatically take into account any declarations on your DPI forms. So it will just be new declarations this evening.
Thank you. So we move on to, sorry.
Jordan.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Jordan. Sorry, I missed your hand. Apologies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's not yet on my DPI form, but I've been appointed by the Local Government Association to the National Pensions Board for Local Government, which is a relevant interest. Thank you.
Yes, noted. Thank you, Jordan. Right.
Local government
Yes, moving on to item 4, the local government reorganisation. Please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move a motion without notice in accordance with paragraph 16, Annex 2.1 of the Constitution. Given the significance of the debate, the item under debate this evening, I propose a motion suspending the normal procedures of full council debate to afford an extended amount of time to the leader of the council in introducing this item, with an equal amount of time being given to the other group leaders, and also that any other councillor may be allowed to speak more than once on the item this evening, subject, of course, to your discretion, Madam Mayor. I move the motion.
Thank you. And I think there's a seconder.
Pleased to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Aaron Elliott. Is that all agreed, everybody? So we suspend it. Thank you. Right, if I can call on the leader of the council, please.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to first formally propose the motion on the agenda set out on page 3 as a motion for full council to agree, but need a second before continue, please.
And Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Right, this is a key debate for us here tonight. I've given it a fair bit of reflection because I've been here quite a few years now. We've been through CPA inspections. I've had 2 local government inspections, which we've gone through. We've had 2 boundary reviews I've been involved with. And there's been nothing that's going to affect this borough and this area in a bigger and more significant way than this particular item tonight. This is an item, I think, that will change this area potentially for a generation. There's been no other debate we've had at all that will involve all members of this council in an outcome that potentially will change this borough and the lives of our community in such a significant way. I think it's interesting that there has been a meeting taking place between Kent leaders now on this for quite some time. And certainly over a year and a half, 2 years almost, since the government actually said we need to start getting involved in doing it. And that for some people seems to be quite a short period of time. And I think that's actually misunderstanding the intent and the work that's gone into this over quite an extensive period. I think it's fair to say at least 13 leaders have been heavily involved in this for quite some time. And the government came forward with a request in statute asking us to come up with a way forward for local government, a way forward that both combine the potential for having an elected mayor, which I think we need to have, as well as local government reorganisation. It was quite a quick timetable, granted, and for that I think is a bit of a regret, and we could have done with a bit more time. But however, I caution myself against that in a way, because when I think about how long I've been talking about this, and I've been thinking about this with other leaders in Kent, and it goes on to at least 20 years. I remember discussing it with the leader of Dartford, Jeremy Kite, over 20 years ago, about bringing in local government organisation and unitary authorities in this part of Kent. That's how long we've been talking about it. What's happened is the government has said, you've all been talking about it for some time. Now as leaders, please come together and come forward with a plan of how you think local government reorganisation in Kent could work. I think, perhaps naively, they expected 14 leaders to agree on one plan. That's always a nice thing to aim for. But one plan out of 14 different opinions, with great respect to my legal colleagues, is like asking 3 lawyers to come up with 3 or less opinions on something. You're always guaranteed more. Now, fortunately, amongst the 14 leaders, we've only ended up with 5 options. But I actually believe in working with Jeremy and Dartford, who on many things, politically, we are complete opposites. Our opinions on many things don't agree. But on this matter, we do agree. The need to have local government that truly serves the local community. A community that has to be at the forefront of what we deliver in local government, in the way of services. It's got to be about the community-based objective of a council. It's got to be the most important driver on anything we bring forward. And that was our starting point, to make sure we served the community of Dartford, Gravesham, and the wider area that we've included within our option 5A. Because we believe our job, our duty, is to serve the communities who elected us, not serve our political masters or parties, but the communities that elect us. And that's why we work together so closely to come up with this option 5A that's before you tonight. I think the option that you've seen has actually a lot going for it, and that's why we're proposing it. The geography takes in the entirety of Dartford and Gravesham. Also takes in Swanley and Strood up to the River Medway, down as far as Snodland. The geography of that is very important to us, because that's the historic areas of Dartford, Northleigh, Dartford councils, together with the Swanley Council and what was Strood Council. And it's interesting that if you look at the local plan in Medway, they actually also in Medway recognise in their local plan the Strood is outside of their normal scope for local authority in planning terms, because it's on the wrong side of a major river called the River Medway. It actually has an allegiance closer to us historically than it has to Rochester and the rest of Medway. And so it's only right that we reflect that in our plan, and that's what we've done. We brought that forward in our area. The benefits of our scheme also allow us to have an electric body that is having about 4,000 electors to and the council have been elected, which gives us one of the better ratios of electors to elected councillors. So we can actually represent the opinion and advocate for our residents better in local government to make sure that local government, when it's elected, truly represents the needs of its community. I think that can't be said of some of the other schemes and options out there. It also actually has 5 unitary authorities that has a broadly based value across all 5. And it's interesting to note that of all the authorities, our costings actually prove us to be quite successful as an option. Yes, it on paper shows the longest payback period. That's based on numbers produced by Kent County Council that have had a 1% uplift and is used as a general number across per person, as opposed to look at the makeup of where their services currently sit. If you look at the way 5A sits in the way of the context, it pretty much replicates the health authority. It replicates the Kent County Council social services area. It replicates the educational area. So the actual area we're trying to pull together is pretty much already baked in place. And so the actual cost of pulling it apart and putting it back together again isn't truly there. But for our costings, because we've had to use one model as a requirement of government that applies to all 5 options that have come forward, that has meant that some of the figures have been slightly imbalanced. So the high cost of services in Thanet, in part, been reflected into our costs here in Gravesham. KPMG, who did all the modelling, in order to come up with the financial modelling for Medway, for example, used our modelling for 5A and slightly adjusted it for what they found to be the new boundaries for the Medway option. It doesn't mean to say they reflect truly those costs. So that we now know there's a problem there. So we need to understand that more. I think our scheme also, because it is one of the smallest, it is actually still within the top 20 of the country on population size. We're setting off with a population of about 320 to 330 as a unitary authority if it was approved by government. If we went for the other option, 1A, for example, with one unitary authority in Kent, it would be by far the largest unitary authority in the entirety of the country, at almost 1.9 million people. And that becomes unworkable. I think our option is combined our thinking with Dartford and Gravesham provides that smaller number. Now, it could be argued that if you've got a big authority, you can have more efficiency. There's no way that actually has been demonstrated. If you look at the reports coming out from the DCN, they have produced numbers on this that demonstrate the smaller unitary authorities are actually more cost efficient than the bigger unitary authorities. So if you're at 500,000 or bigger, their costs for a Band D property are averaging £250 a year more for every resident than the smaller authority. So in this context, smaller is better. And it actually still goes back to providing those better services. The other issue is with 4D. I have to refer to 4D as the Medway option. The problem with that one, unlike the government guidance that says we should try and aim to keep authority and boundaries and wards and parishes untouched, yes, we have to do a bit of an amendment to Medway and take Strood over to us, but it's the entirety of the Strood. It's the entirety of wards in that area, and it reflects historic context. Likewise with Swanley, it's all those wards in Swanley, not bits and pieces of a ward. But what Medway's option's done is cut 2 boroughs in half, it's cut wards in half, it's cut parishes in half. And that is totally contrary to the government guidance. So for that reason, we can't support it. Neither can we support some of the other options when they've gone bigger, the 3 and the 4 in the other bandings, because you'll see with those, again, we've got a problem of size and not truly reflecting the need to represent local people. So we feel that the issue of providing a smaller authority provides better service to local people. We can demonstrate the costings give us a better and more cost-effective council. It gives us the ability, we believe, to represent those communities and their history. It's important, I know, to Dartford and Gravesham that we reflect the history of our boroughs. Now, in Gravesham, when we merged back in 72, we had the order back then, and we came together in 1974. Hasten to add, I wasn't on the council at that time, in case any of you are wondering about it. But at that time, there was a lot of dislike of the merger of Dartford into what it was, and it became, and particularly in Gravesham, Northfleet merging in with Gravesend Council. And some of that dislike has never gone, because people love their areas, they love their communities, they love their history. And our scheme still represents that, still recognises that. Because the entirety of those areas are coming together in one. And we have an obligation, if government does go forward with this particular proposal, a 5A, and there's no guarantee they will do this one or any of the others, if they choose this one, and maybe another one, to consult with the public in the spring of next year, we've got to make sure that when it is hopefully agreed, the formation of that new council recognises the need to have areas that reflect Dartford, Swanley Strood, Ebbsfleet, and Northfleet and Gravesend, and the actual areas themselves. So we can actually get the proper voice of those areas into our council, because we're all different. All those areas are different. The bigger you get the authority, the less possible that voice will be heard. I've been on Kent County Council, a bit briefly, and to get a voice in Kent, when you're in one part of Kent, North Kent, and you're trying to listen to a voice over in Dover, is very, very difficult. People don't know those streets in Dover. We know our streets, we know our communities here. And that's what 5A as an option will give us, a better chance of knowing your local areas, and even those areas in neighbouring areas to you, because they're easier to get to. So I really do commend 5A to all of you. I hope we can discuss it tonight in a way we're talking about the community first and not other issues, because I think that's what this is about. This is about the community of, in our case here, Gravesham, in Dartford's case, Dartford area, and obviously Swanley and Strood separately. But it's about the people. This is about them we need to be talking about tonight, about what serves them best going forward. Not necessarily what serves any one of us or what may serve any of our parties, but what serves the community we're elected to serve. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to now call on Councillor Jordan Mead, please.
So thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to start by thanking the Leader of the Council for the pragmatic way in which he's briefed and fully involved all groups on this council in this, which is one of the largest items that we will probably ever come to discuss in this chamber, and indeed the officers who have put in a tremendous amount of work to very, very, very tight local government deadlines. And in starting this evening, Madam Mayor, I wish to do something that is seldom done and something that I don't think we often do enough, and that is to speak up for and defend one of the oldest and most fundamental pillars of democracy in this country, and that is us as a borough council. For over a century, Kent has been governed, and on the large part, I would say governed well, by a two-tier system that we know today. It was in 1835 that Gravesend first became a municipal borough, but long before that, through various ancient charters, this area had a structured form of local governance that is not too dissimilar from what we have before us today. Indeed, Portreeves became mayor, and the role of powerful local aldermen or businessmen transitioned into councillors, and thankfully this chamber became more representative for the local population. Yet the fundamentals, Madam Mayor, did not change, and that was local decisions being made by local people. Over the centuries, ordinary people from all corners and all backgrounds of our borough have given their time, their energy, and their devotion to serving their community as borough councillors, and thousands more from across Gravesend and beyond have dedicated their professional lives to working the mechanics that allow life to function in our towns and villages through their employment at this council and its predecessors. And as we have this debate today, I think we need to keep that service of both councillors past and present, and indeed our officers in the forefront of our minds. So, Madam Mayor, whilst I'll be the first to admit that the two-tier system that we have is far from perfect, the very reason why it stood the test of time is because it's rooted in a powerful principle that local decisions are best made by the people that those decisions are going to affect the most. This powerful and ancient principle is why borough councils, for all their wrongs, are the beating heart of our local democracy. And today this debate saddens me somewhat, not because I'm against the careful evolution of our system over time, but because I see local government reorganisation as an unnecessary and harmful interference from central government that is void of meaningful democratic input, unwanted by the populace at large, and unhelpful to the future of good governance and democratic accountability. I do think the government needs to wake up, and this isn't a dig at the current government, this is a dig at all governments that I've had in my lifetime. They need to wake up and understand that localism is not a gimmick, it is the fundamental bedrock of our society and indeed the people's relationship with their government. For we are the people who every day are at the coalface of local politics. We see the real lived issues up front, from the fly tipping hotspots to the planning disputes. We see the families that have desperate need for housing, and we see and support those businesses that are on the brink of their very survival. We are the ones who know our streets, our neighbourhoods and our parishes, and we try through our casework and our political discourse in this chamber to inject that local knowledge and our passion for the areas in which we live, hopefully with the odd dose of humanity to inform better outcomes for the people that we're elected to serve. And Madam Mayor, no regional body or distant super-unitary authority, however well intended, could ever replicate the intimacy of that local knowledge, which is why, if I had my way, I would be opposing today what I think is a crazy national plot to erase our boroughs and replace them with multi-area authorities. Alas, Madam Mayor, as the leader rightly outlined, we have no choice. Government has said that this is something that is happening and will be happening to us. And therefore, despite my opposition to the national agenda, we today as councillors have a monumental duty to make the case for which of these options we believe would truly serve in the best interests of the people we are sent here to represent. For whatever option the Minister picks, Madam Mayor, will probably be with us for at least the next half century. Now, I spoke moments ago about that fundamental need to ensure that decisions are made as close as possible to local people and feel their impact. And it's on this basis that I'm pleased to join the leader and Councillor Kite as the leader in Dartford in supporting option 5A. None of the cases that we have before us are perfect and none of them are fully worked through. But in reading through every option, as I have done, I've reflected on that point of localism and whether the people here wish to be governed by a body that is large enough to forget about us or small enough to be of us. Madam Mayor, the only option that protects local identity, that offers local accountability and provides true local decision-making is that of 5A. On the point of geography, this option is the only one that makes sense. It respects the integrity of Gravesend and Dartford, and unlike Medway's outrageous gerrymandering along the A2 corridor, this option keeps our villages with our towns, which is of fundamental importance. This option further reflects our shared transport corridors, our established economic zones, and our shared growth challenges. Through the Ebbsfleet Development Corporation, the Thames Estuary Partnership, and many other local boards and communities in this area, we have a proud and successful track record of working together on the big issues of the day. Now, quickly looking through the other options, Madam Mayor, option 1A would create a council responsible for some 1.9 million people. Now, it's worth keeping in mind that this council would actually be larger than several nation states. And unless we find a way of resurrecting King Ethelbert and restoring the ancient kingdom of Kent, then I put it to the council tonight that that's just not a viable option. By contrast, option 5A keeps our area to around 330,000 people, large enough to be efficient, but small enough to be us. I don't believe that we're going to see any real savings achieved through any of these options. And I don't believe that any of them are going to deliver a meaningful reduction of the council tax that residents pay for local services. So in the absence of saving money, the only thing that therefore matters is democratic accountability and local service delivery, which again is why option 5A stands out as the most sensible choice. I've also had the privilege of serving our community for over a decade, both here in this chamber since 2015 and for a term at Kent County Council. And in that time, I've seen how the case workload for councillors has expanded and now the role of councillor has become something that is considered full-time. And that's why when looking at these options, we need to be ever so careful that when we consider future ward sizes and how localised services are shaped, that we do so around real and identifiable neighbourhoods. For Madam Mayor, if we get this aspect wrong, if wards are made too large, or if they cover artificial boundaries that make no sense, the councillors of the future will become that much more distant and our successors will have been set up to foul and stand no chance in delivering for their areas at all. In representing the beautiful villages of Heigham and Shorn, it would be completely amiss of me today to speak without mentioning the defence of protecting our villages. In the context of planning, we know that due to housing pressures, our greenbelt and rural life is under significant threat. Yet still, while we have local hyper authorities, there remains a glimmer of hope that through local accountability, we can preserve, protect and defend the natural identity and our beautiful villages. I mean, just thinking back to option 1A again, and I want to ask the Chamber whether or not anyone in this room could stomach the real possibility of a planning committee being based in Maidstone, made up predominantly of representatives from Dover, Canterbury and the Weald, having decision-making authorities and the real potential to plonk down a housing development in somewhere like Cobham. Because, Madam Mayor, that's the real reality of what could happen under option 1A. We could see local planning decisions and other core services decided by people who have never stepped foot in the areas that we today represent. And that's a travesty that we all in this chamber have to prevent. So to summarise, Madam Mayor, North Kent is a recognised coherent growth corridor. The boundaries in 5A follow and protect rural communities, not arbitrary administrative lines. I dismiss all of the financial modelling of all of the schemes that are before us at this stage, as I believe them to be meaningless until it's decided how Kent's assets, including their mega property portfolio and the investments of the districts, are to be shared out. Tonight, the question that we must therefore ask ourselves is if we're prepared to hand over our community's future to distant structures too large to care, or do we stand firm on that principle that power should always be exercised closest to the people that it serves? So tonight, I'll personally be voting for a model that protects our local voice. I'll be backing the model that best defends our democracy, and I will back the only option that puts our community first. I'm therefore backing 5A, not because I am a reorganisation enthusiast, far from it, but because I love and I want to defend the place that I was born and bred. This borough of Gravesham, Madam Mayor, for as long as I may call it that, and I'm therefore pleased to second. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Mead. I know that Councillor Pearson wants to come in, but I want to call on Councillor Aaron Elliott first, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Local government reorganisation, quite a long word to say, sorry. Some would say an attempt by government to stimulate the rise of reform, that they're running scared and they're conveniently using local government reorganisation as a means to prevent democratic elections taking place across the country. They might also say it's convenient for local authorities to push the reset button on huge debts that they've racked up through poor choices in their use of public money, usually through their own political choices. The Gravesham option has its own issues, and I thank the leader for allowing me to share those with him in advance of this meeting. Issues including leaving Gravesham weaker and more vulnerable to a London Thames Gateway style scheme in the years ahead, which I know he shares the view would not be welcomed by Gravesham residents. I also have issues with the proportional numbers used as being a selling point of this proposal, saying that our authority would be 330,000 on day one with room to grow to 500,000, bakes into it an expectation on more housing coming to this area. When every resident knows we don't have the infrastructure and none of that growth is driven by birth rates. It isn't unusual for political groups at GBC to have differing opinion from their colleagues elsewhere. Conservatives at KCC were in favour of the Lower Thames crossing, while the Conservative group in Gravesham was vehemently against. The Labour government is ramming through that Lower Thames crossing while the local Labour group are also against. This is normal. All options except the KCC option 1A propose to divide Kent. Kent, whose motto is Invicta, unconquered, for 1,000 years until this government. Sadly, I don't believe that option 1A has any chance of being approved by the Secretary of State. And given the example set by the mismanaged Birmingham Council with its crazy debt racked up by Labour, The idea of creating a unitary authority to cover millions of people in Kent has challenges I fear could be unsurmountable. The Gravesham option has some positives and negatives. It will take 14 years to achieve a payback for LGR to have been worth it, while it ensures a good level of local representation in the number of residents per councillor. I think it said 4,000. I recognise that it would also have the potential to attract more government funding than other parts of Kent that are better off. LGR is being forced upon us, and a proposal will be selected whether we want it or not. The worst outcome for Gravesham as a whole would be the Medway proposal, which would divide our people at the A2. I fear that voting against the Gravesham proposal would put Gravesham residents at risk of that Medway proposal. And supporting the KCC option 1A proposal, given the unlikeliness of it being selected, would also put Gravesham at risk from that Medway proposal. I believe the issue of local government reorganisation should be above policy politics, as it will impact residents for the next 50 years. The GBC Reform Group will be voting freely tonight, and with our own consciences as individuals. We are, after all, elected to serve the best interests of our residents. Given that this change is being put upon us, I believe anybody not supporting a proposal should themselves suggest an alternative. And I regret that time since our group moved to reform has been so short that we have not been able to bring our own proposal. I can say that none of the proposals are perfect. I therefore, at the moment, do not intend to vote against the Gravesham option. My vote will be ultimately determined by what I hear in this chamber this evening. I would like to thank and congratulate all who have worked on proposals from across our county on this matter. I will be partaking and listening with interest to the rest of this evening's debate. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Aaron Elliott. If we pause and then pick up, please, with Councillor. Yeah. Yes.
Free debate.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yes. I'm being prompted, which is quite correct. We enter the free debate period so that everybody can speak, and you can speak as many times as you like. Councillor Pearton was the first to show of hands, and I do have a list running. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank the leader of the council for the hard work and dedication he's put into this option 5.1, but and also everybody involved in getting to this stage today, because this is the only option I can see that's going to protect our borough, our villages, and it will give people of the borough a say in what goes on in their areas. Because as the leader said earlier on in his speech, that it is the local people that know their areas better than anybody else. And so it is right that these people that live in these areas have their say to what goes on in the local areas that they, and us as ward councillors, that we probably won't be ward councillors when this all goes through, but it will. We are hoping that it will give more protection to the people that live in those areas. So I'm really behind this 5A, and I will be supporting it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearton. The next person I have, or councillor rather, on my list is Councillor Lenny Rolls, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there's a certain irony I'd like to address some points raised by Councillor Elliott, that, you know, the papers that we're discussing tonight, the pages are set out before us, all the information is there, it's available everywhere. As local authorities in Kent, across the whole of Kent, there's only these options here. So there's an opportunity for you to consider all of the evidence that's there. If you've been unable to get your group to discuss it in that time, I don't know why that would be the case. I think also there's a certain irony in terms of the fact of saying that these were raised to council elections when we had elections here in Gravesham just in May of this year. And, I certainly represent and recognise the will of people that vote for me for the party that I stand for, instead of turning my back on the residents and switching to the side that I think might get elected at the next election. However, moving forward onto the debate in hand this evening, I think we need to consider that we're considering options from across the whole of Kent, not just for Gravesham. And I think option 5A actually offers the best option for everyone in Kent, because we want to make sure that we're accountable as elected representatives for people that we represent. And I think that there's actually a bit of confusion out there. Sitting down with residents in my surgery this Saturday, when I tried to explain to them what was going on with local government reorganisation and what it meant for them, I think there was actually a feeling of not being able to understand where they go to or what have you. And I think with a really large super authority, as is proposed in 1A, it would remove the accountability and transparency for residents in terms of who they go to. I think it was a very good point made by Councillor Mead about, not just planning, but licensing, about decisions being taken on committees where, they're so far removed from the people that they're representing. I think it becomes a real challenge. And I think actually smaller, more manageable geographies allow local services for local demographic needs. And it enables them to consider the unique character of those different local geographies. The villages of Gravesham, I had the pleasure of travelling across Kent last year in the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, exactly the same as villages throughout Kent. There's wonderful characters within Kent, and people need that representation from smaller. I think smaller authorities are actually able to get better deals, as has been shown by analysis by the County Council Network and PwC, and a number of academic studies shows there's no correlation between increased council size and the amount of money that's brought in. In fact, when you look at some of the reported deals that Medway have got for social care, it's actually they've achieved better value than some of the KCC contracts that are out there. So I think this option of all the options that are out there, option 5A, means that local people will feel that connection to the representatives that are there in the chamber representing their views. There's a greater level of transparency and accountability. And that's not just in Gravesham, that's across the whole of Kent. And that's why I think this 5A option, and Medway, across Kent and Medway, that's why this 5A option is the best one. Because if it's true localism that we want to achieve, if it's winning back the trust of people that are out there in that we're here to represent them, I don't understand how people feel that one huge or super authority is going to be able to offer the right sort of representation and localism ideas. I just don't think it will work. And that's why I will be supporting option 5A, because it supports the government ambition for devolution and community empowerment. But on the face of it, for the people in my surgery, they know where to come to. And as their councillor and representative, I know how to get the results and deliver for them. And I believe that that's why 5A is the best option. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. The next councillor I have on my list is Councillor Narinda Tandy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, when this local government organisation comes, I was a bit surprised. I was not quite sure what's going to happen. And then we thought, okay, it might be better that all the local issues will be decided at one place so that people know what's happening. And then the main region, the people who's making a decision, they should know the area. I'd like to share one incident which happened a long time ago. At Kent County Council, they were deciding something regarding North Fees for girls. And one of the councillor who was one of them making the decision, he asked, where is North Peaceful Girls? So that's what my worry is, that the people who are making the decision, they don't know the area and they can't make a proper decision. For that reason, I'll support highway, at least people who know the area, they live around there because they can make the better decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Tandy. The next councillor, Councillor Kim Glendonning, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to try and keep this brief and not be too repetitive from what we've heard already. I think as the leader said earlier, this is going to be the biggest change in a generation. We have a lot of responsibility, not just in this room, but across Kent, to make the right decision for the people that we represent. If we look at the socioeconomic makeup of Gravesham, we have pockets of real wealth, but we also have pockets of real deprivation. And keeping people who are close to the communities who can recognise that is really important. We're really used to hearing about, for example, why the South East is so wealthy. If we're looking at options such as one put forward by Kent County Council 1A, we're already looking at being a step too far removed to understand the makeup of our communities. I want to thank the leader and officers and everyone that's been involved for what has been a real immense amount of work, and I can't imagine it's been easy drawing up these options. I do believe that 5A is the best for all of us. I'm confident about that. Smaller unitaries mean decisions being taken closer to the people that they're going to impact. I think that is the most important issue that we're looking at here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kim Glendonning. And the next councillor I have is Councillor Shane Mockery-Cox.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. That was actually Councillor Glendonning's maiden speech, I believe, as well. So congratulations on that. I'd like to also pay tribute to officers that have worked exceptionally hard on this. I know the leader's been fronting this at Kent Leaders, but there's not just Kent Leaders, there's Kent Chiefs, Kent Finance Officers, Kent Lawyers, there's a Kent version for everything in a way. But at every one of those levels, led by Kent Leaders, there has been this constant discussion to try and get what is best for Kent. And it is a hard task because Kent isn't an homogenous area. There isn't an urban conurbation. There has a lot of history. I thought that when the Leader of the Opposition was saying about 1835, I thought he was going to correct the Leader on how long he's been on the council, given his age. But the Leader of the Opposition is right. There is such history here, and it's right that we pay tribute to that in whatever model comes through. Like colleagues, I'll be supporting 5A because it is right that that long history and heritage features in whatever model comes forward. Too far removed, and you end up with decisions that aren't reflective of local need, are not able to change. You have effectively governance by dashboard and scorecard and not by residents' views and issues. And that is what is needed in local government moving forward. They should be close, they should be respected, and they should be fiscally sound. And yes, there is a payback period for all of this LGR, but actually none of these models is going to solve the issue of local government finance. And that is shown throughout the papers. And we have stood in this chamber across parties for some time saying that actually the thing that needs solving is local government finance. I hope the fairer funding review will be beneficial, but we await that because ultimately it's important that that is what is solved in the model moving forward. I think the boundaries in 5A, Madam Mayor, make sense. They reflect those ancient histories. The River Medway has long been a boundary for those that were born, of course, one side of the Medway, you're a Kentish man. If you're the other side, you're a man of Kent. Prizes for guessing which one is which. I believe it's West is Kentish man. So the Medway has been long a boundary. Kent's model, one size fits all approach, isn't going to work for a diverse county such as Kent, and the issues that are currently experienced across the entire county. I agree with comments that have been made by colleagues about the role of councillors having evolved over time. It is already at borough council level close to being a full-time role. We need councillors to reflect the diversity of the communities that they represent, including the age demographic, as well as the various communities. That's not going to help if it's a further remote, very large local authority. So it needs to have that ability of reflexivity. And so the population of 1.9 million for one authority doesn't really work. The average size is 270. So as the leader rightly pointed out, the models that are proposed here for the 5 authorities we've got in 5A still actually makes it some of the largest proposals in the entire country. I have said in this chamber before, and I say this again, joining the leader of the opposition and saying this, that I don't think central government has ever really got local government and really needs to get it. And this is a golden opportunity to get it a little bit better, to be swifter in its responsiveness for change. There are problems with the 4D model, which is why we're not supporting that. I hope that doesn't come as a surprise for people, because this is about what's good for the residents of the borough and what's good for the residents of this entire area. For us, 4D would create the largest increase in council tax across Kent due to the council tax base rates. The ability for growth is really important as well. We need to have the ability to grow our boroughs and meet the business needs, to beat the needs for our local economies, for our tourism, and that requires there to be space, and that requires the council tax bands not to be. The majority of that 4D model is A to C. So where is the financial backing for these new authorities going to come from if there isn't that diversity? I'm very proud of our villages. I'm very proud of our towns. Like the leader said, I have residents that haven't forgotten what they see as a bit of a betrayal of 1974 and want to have that identity for Northfleet retained. I don't want to lose that argument for Gravesham in this model, and that's why, like other colleagues, I'll be supporting 5A, and I thank the Chamber so far for the debate they've had in a really good manner. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good discipline. Thank you, Councillor Mockery-Cox. The next person I have on my list is Councillor Lee Croxton. I nearly called you Doctor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I try and broaden this a little? Because, I mean, I obviously support 5A, but I'm not going to repeat the arguments that have already been put for obvious reasons, because they're going to be repeated, I think, time and time again. What I'd like to stress is perhaps 2 points, if I can, Madam Mayor. The first point really goes back to when I was a little bit younger. As a young teacher, I lived in Swanley, and for a number of years. And can I say that one aspect of 5A is the Swanley aspect? When I lived there, I felt very much part of North Kent, of Dartford, and this area. And I think that was true of almost everybody I knew there. And I think bringing Swanley back into this area is something that is very, very significant. My second point, however, is something that seems to me rather disappointingly missed in this whole argument about 5A. We do have significant advantages. Can I say that right at the centre of 5A is the first in 100 years garden city that's being created. It's going to be an area of 15,000 homes. It's going to have at Ebbsfleet Central a major hub, which is, I think, going to eclipse anything on the Medway. This is a significant development. Now, I cast my mind back, if I can, Madam Mayor, to sitting in a Land Rover going through a very muddy chalk quarry with a very large man, Californian man working for an Australian company. He did say that he was a better door than a window. And he took me around an area of mud in a chalk quarry. And then about 3 months later, came to talk to something like 250 of my sixth form students and told them about a dream in this area, a dream that could be accomplished. And he was, of course, kept them mesmerised. He was talking about blue water. Remember, this is a significant area of the middle of 5A. Now, he told me in a subsequent meeting, that was Eric Kuhn, who was the architect of Blue Water, and said that he thought Blue Water was going to be his final achievement. But he said it won't be, because there's something bigger out there, and he pointed at Eastern Quarry. Now, I've been to Eastern Quarry. I've started to see the developments. It's taken a long time, but you have a unique transport system there, fast track, but it's actually linking in to housing developments. You have a major opportunity. It's slow. It's going to take a very long time to develop. But I would tell you that Ebbsfleet Central is going to be a major part of this area. What I'm saying is, while we are right to talk about, as councillors, representing local democracy, representing our community, the voters who vote for us, let's not lose sight of what is actually happening in the very heart of the area we represent, the Northfleet Embankment development. Now, I know we have a huge number of brownfield sites which we want to develop and should be developing, and can't develop because we don't have the infrastructure and funding that's necessary. But what we do have is something that is really quite unique in the centre of Northwest Kent. And I rather suspect, and I will be long since gone, but I think the Northwest Kent this area is going to become a major hub and a major development area for the future. So what I'm saying is, don't just get carried away with arguments about democracy and representing local people. Look at the opportunities that are there in 5A for the future and for all of us and for the people we represent. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lee Croxton. And the next councillor is Councillor Deborah Croxton, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Croxton, for turning off your mic. I will be supporting 5A. I believe it's better for all residents, rather than, repeating everything that my colleagues across the council have said. There is an even distribution of residents, therefore better councillor to resident ratio across all of the 5 unitaries, not just in our North Kent unitary, proposed North Kent unitary. Also, 5A would create less disruption of services on a health aspect, and also public safety and transportation. And as we've said, it's not going to be dividing communities, our districts and parishes and wards that are very, very important to all of our residents. From a demographic and economical aspect, 5A is better across all 5 unitaries, because each of those unitaries has its own economical and demographic uniqueness, if you like. And by making it even larger, it just really wouldn't, I don't believe, would work. 1B, I really don't think it's outside of the government guidelines, therefore I feel it's possibly non-compliant. Too many residents and very impersonal. The large unitaries, for example, 3A, again, the demographic differences across Kent. These large unitaries are spread way too far, and there will be a loss of local identity. The larger the unitary, again, homelessness is a huge problem or issue or challenge for all local authorities. And the larger the unitary, the greater the financial risk implications for those unitaries. So I believe that 5A is actually better, not just for North Kent, but for the entire county of Kent moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deborah Croxton. And the next person I have on my list is Councillor Gary Harding. Councillor Gary Harding. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been listening to what everyone's been saying, and I would like to thank the leader of the council for presenting a very good point about all the things that need to happen. And we're actually talking about not about us where we are today. We're actually talking about the future and how things will will be done. And for me, there's a couple of things. It's democratic accountability and localism, that we as local councils must be far more responsive to what the local needs are with the people of Gravesham, Dartford, Swansea, and so on. I have a lot of issue with the option 1A is the fact it is so far remote, and the idea that we got this, looking at it this way, basically we're going to lose an entire tier of local government and replace it with a popped up KCC. And the increase in the number of councillors in there is from 81 to 118, which is an extra 37 councillors. But if you look at us here, there's 39 of us, apart from a couple of people. But there we are 39. And that is what the proposal for 1A is. It's just a tiny increase for the entirety of Kent. And that is very important because us, the Councillor Mead was saying about the planning committee or the various committee that we spoke about, we have to respond in a responsible manner for our local people. And this is very important to me because we all have our surgeries. We speak to local people, what they need. We talk about enterprise. We talk about the economic advantages. But we can only do that if we are here to keep our fingers on the button, see or follow what is going on. Whereas if it was in Maidstone, it cannot be done properly. So I'd say I've actually looked through all the different options, and I could say after a few hours, I'm not going to get back in my life. But that's one of the things. However, out of the whole lot, I think 5A had a lot going for it, especially when it's about meeting requirement for the local people. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harding. Moving on, Councillor Lynn Milner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In probably 2.5 months' time, I've actually been on the council for 33 years. I've seen many changes, but this is the biggest one I think that we've had to think about. And yes, we have to think about all of our constituents that we represent. So yes, 5A is about the best one. I have looked at all of them because I have time on my hands now. I'm retired. But could I just speak up for a maid of Kent or a Kentish maiden to go with the man of Kent, etc., that Councillor Mark Ricock said earlier on? Mustn't forget there are maids in Kent as well as the men. So just on that, yes, again, I know it's going to be repeated, but this is the biggest thing I think that has faced all of our officers and indeed all of our leaders of Kent. It's many hours and much reading, for thousands of pages, etc. And yes, we have got to get it right. And I think 5A is the best thing that we've got here in front of us tonight for the future of Gravesham. We mustn't forget it's to do with the future. It's to do with our future young people. Now that's coming along in our boroughs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milner. Councillor Ijaz Aslam, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so today we've seen a lot of consensus with the discussion today, which is a good thing. Consensus is there because the option that's been put in front of us, 5A, is really the only real acceptable option for us to discuss. So I do commend the leader and the leader of Dartford and all the other relevant people who have got involved in this to favour the residents of Gravesham, Dartford, Swanley, and parts of Strood. The main thing is this is going to happen in any case. So I think what is important is, as everybody has expressed here today, is the fact that we all have one voice for the residents that we serve. What I do know is that the current situation that we have is really rather bizarre and unacceptable. I'm sure the leader who's been on the council for many years would agree that fighting for your cause here in Gravesham and having to go to a higher tier, Kent County Council, asking them, in some cases begging them for funding for this and for other matters, and then to be rejected, I think is unacceptable. Secondly, we do all the hard work. We collect all the rates, the council tax, etc., for it to then to be dispersed amongst other boroughs and areas in Kent. I think that's wrong. We want to see the businesses in our local area who are paying the business rates and paying the council tax to see that actual money that is collected spent in front of their eyes so they can actually appreciate it. So as far as I'm concerned, the current situation is not acceptable. Roads having to go to Kent County Council, social service having to go to Kent County Council, adult services having to go to Kent County Council. What is left for us to do for our residents when we all know that these are very, very important parts for our local residents? If I had my way, I would abolish Kent County Council altogether, and the funding that they get, I would disperse that money amongst all the current authorities that are here to at least have a starting point to see how that works before we have such a major change. But I can see it's not coming. I'm sure they won't listen, but nonetheless, there's a lot of money going to Kent County Council, and if that was abolished and then redistributed amongst the working authorities already, maybe we may see some changes. In any case, having said all of that, the option that is in front of us, the other options in my eyes are not worth even discussing. The one to discuss is 5A, and as far as I'm concerned, I will be supporting that option. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aslam. Councillor Mead wants to have a word.
So thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be briefer on this point, but it's not often we suspend the rules in this chamber, so I thought I'd have to stand up just for the sake of having a second bite. I'm really pleased with how the debate's gone today. I think it's been a really useful debate, and particularly the points made by Councillor Rolls on efficiencies in adult social care, local service delivery is something that we all need to desperately see in this borough, and indeed the point that Councillor Lee Croxton made about growth of the Ebbsfleet area, I think is fundamental, and the opportunities that will hopefully come out of that for all of us. But it's on quite the niche point of heritage, which I know that we've touched upon throughout this debate. But our heritage and I'll say the Gravesham area, although if the man who taught me all I know about local heritage was sitting in the gallery, Mr. Larkin, he would quite forcefully remind me that Gravesham is a concept that came out of 1974 and we shouldn't use it at all. But the heritage collectively of our towns and villages is something that I fear will get lost up with whatever option we decide to take. We only have to step just outside this chamber and look at our mayoral and Portreeve boards to know that the very first Portreeve or mayor of this borough was created in the year 1568. And Madam Mayor, that's something that's worth protecting. And I don't want to make you blush, Madam Mayor, but I do now want to make a bit of a defence for the role and importance of ceremonial mayors, because beyond serving as figureheads for our community, I think back to all of the mayors that we've had in this borough, and the collective wealth that they've provided to the many causes and charities that have served this borough so diligently over the years. And I really do worry that as we go to this new ultra-political model, that we are going to lose that. And I would like us to think seriously about how we can preserve the role of mayor going forward locally for either our townships. And there are some crazy ideas out there. I think the most simplest way under the Local Government Acts to preserve a borough mayor would be to have a town council created for the Gravesend and Northfleet areas. But again, that would be subject to a local referendum, and I can't foresee anyone, myself included, voting for another tier of local authority only to pay another precept and local tax. But there might be creative ways out there. We might be able to look towards some of the gildable manors of the city and even some of the portreeve courts that still exist in this country to see whether or not there is some legal mechanism by which we can preserve the right to have a first citizen and representative on a community basis in this borough. And I say that in the concept of looking at our heritage, because before us we've got that beautiful mace from 1709. And I do not want to see our heritage leave this town and, God forbid, end up in some storage closet in somewhere like Strood or Maidstone, because we owe it to the people to preserve the story of this area. And it's being lost at the moment in all of these discussions. And I know it's way down the pecking order when we look at things like the delivery of adult social care. But I think as the current councillors, we are the guardian of this town's heritage. And as this story evolves, we need to think seriously about how we're going to protect it for future generations.
Thank you, Councillor Mead. It looks to me as though we don't have any other councillor who wishes to speak, so I'll come back to the leader if I may.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, it's been a very good debate tonight. It's quite a debate. I think most of us have come together. I think there was the expected sort of little forays into a bit of politics, but that was to be expected. I think the arena we're in is political, so I've got no issue with that, because ultimately we've all come around to discussing the thing we're here for tonight, and that is what form of local government do we want going forward. We're not getting a choice here. The government's been very clear. And in fact, to be fair, the previous government was quite clear as well. The local government was coming our way. I used to go and have been going to local government conferences for some time now. And it's been a mood change I've seen over a whole number of years, moving away from boroughs and districts to counties taking over. And then there's a mood change coming, well, actually counties have gone as well. And now we're talking about unitary authorities. And it's like every time you went, each year I went, it's like, where's this conversation coming from? Why is it happening? It's happening because government civil servants, not necessarily the politicians, are driving this agenda. They see this as an agenda that for them is going to be better for local government and to service local people better. And I remember there was a reference earlier to the EDC being set up, how important that's going to be for the area. Well, it is, I grant that. But I actually was at the inception of that with Jeremy, as it happens, one of the other things I was at the beginning of. And I was stunned, I seem to this day stunned, by a civil servant in the Treasury saying the reason why they were setting up the EDC was they didn't trust local government. They didn't believe we could run finances in local government. And so they were setting up the EDC to do it because they couldn't trust us. And I think this is our opportunity here to actually say to government, regardless of the colour of the political parties up there at the moment, but to say to the civil servants in particular, we can run local government. We know how to run local government. Give us proper local control at a low enough level, we will run it and we will run it well. I think that's the opportunity we've got. The government is going through financial reform at the moment and looking at all the budgets for different tiers of government, and we will be getting that information coming through. So it's true to say at the moment the options we're looking at before us tonight aren't full and final because we don't know all the financial detail. But what we can do and what we have been asked to do by government is to go forward with an option that we think fits Kent's needs best. And with everything we know currently, 5A is that. And it would certainly, in my opinion, help a great deal if all members here tonight either solidly are supportive of 5A or think on balance they can support 5A, you come out and support 5A. Because I'm going to have to take this argument to government as well and to say, look, we are a council. It's of one voice. Forget the politics. We are serving our community, our people, our residents. That's what you want us to do. We're doing it. As a group of councillors, we've come together as one body telling you, government, give us the power locally. Give us what we want to do as option 5A.
Sorry, would you
Now,
stop?
if we do that,
Would you stop heckling? Sorry.
if we do that, if we do that, then that's the best way forward for this authority, because we need to do what is right, and voting for 5A is going to be the way forward. So I would ask you to do that. But can I just correct, if I may, be so bold, Councillor Aslan, when you said that I have a problem with having to go to other tiers and begging for things. I think you misunderstand me. I've never had that in my makeup to beg anybody. I'll go and fight for what we want, always have done, and I will continue to do that. We will certainly, as an authority, never beg anyone, because we know what we need, we're going to get what we need, and we will fight for it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. I think now we need to move to a vote, so I'm going to hand over to the Chief Exec, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Given the nature of the debate, I think this can be settled by a simple show of hands in line with the Constitution. So what I'm going to ask in a minute is in line with this motion, which is as tabled in front of you, and that is full council are requested to support option 5A as developed by Gravesham Borough Council and Dartford Borough Council. Can I ask for a show of hands, those who are voting for that motion, please? And can I ask one of my colleagues to also count with me?
Sorry, could we have silence from the gallery? Thank you.
No, they're not all. No.
Yeah.
Did you count them?
Did you count me? I'm hidden.
Yeah, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's unanimous, isn't it? It's unanimous, yeah. Madam Mayor, the vote is unanimously counted.
Right, as the Chief Executive has just said, the vote is unanimous. And now we move to the close of the meeting, nearly, except for the Mayor's announcements. And I have just the one announcement, and that's to say that it's bright and breezy to cheer us all up. Songs around the Christmas tree, Tuesday the 9th of December in the Kent Room. You don't have to pay an admission charge, but you do get mulled wine, and you do get mince pies, and you do get dairy-free cake, and you do get fruit juice, and you get the rock choir, and you get the beautiful Rocherville Primary School choir, and you have a special guest. All we ask is that you put some money in a Christmas bauble and hang it on a Christmas tree. And I do understand that a £20 note folds up beautifully and goes in the Christmas bauble. So we're going to bring this meeting to a close. Yes, I'm so sorry. Of course you can, Chief Exec. Go on.
Madam Mayor, apologies. I meant to mention it when I did the vote, but during the meeting, it's been brought to my attention that Councillor Tony Rana offered his apologies for this meeting as well. It was as the meeting started due to unforeseen circumstances, but it hadn't reached me at that point. So for the minutes, thank you.
Thank you. Most important. Gosh, I hope everything is all right. So I'm going to bring the meeting to a close. There is now going to move on to a cabinet meeting in here. So may I ask everybody who is not involved with the cabinet meeting to please vacate as quickly as possible. However, you are very welcome to come back to the Mayor's Parlour, where I have a little food, and in the fridge there's a little wine chilling. So you have to give me a couple of minutes to get the wine out of the fridge. But you're all very welcome. Those who are not involved with the cabinet, you're all invited back.
Please be upstanding for the worship for the Mayor of Gravesham.
Yeah, let me out first, please. Just realised what was happening.
Right, good evening to the extraordinary meeting of the Cabinet on Tuesday, the 18th of November. We've just had a full council meeting, extraordinary meeting to talk about local government. So item 1 was the live streaming announcement for members of the public if they were here. They've all actually now left, so we can bypass that one. We had that under the Mayor's full council debate. Apologies for absence. I believe we're all here, so none to be noted. Item 3 is declaring members' interest on the agenda. Is there anything from members? No. Item 4 to consider anything from Part A to Part B or vice versa. None that I'm aware of. Are we agreed on that? Yep. Item 5, therefore, is the paper that you have in front of you on local government reorganisation. It's a paper that mirrors that went to full council that we've just had. A lot of good information in this particular paper. Can I first thank officers for all the hard work they've done in putting this paper together, and the option 5A particularly together as an option for this council in conjunction with Dartford Borough Council. Can I also say that just remind us all, in case any of us have forgotten from about 5 minutes ago, there was a unanimous vote of full council in support of 5A, which I think is a very important factor that we need to consider when we look at this paper now in Cabinet. I would remind all members that this is an executive decision, hence why we're dealing with this after full council has debated it and indicated their preference, which is 5A. And the paper clearly will provide the power for the Chief Exec, in conjunction with me as leader, to finalise the documentation, working with Dartford, obviously, to submit to government by the 28th of November is the recommendation which I'll be putting to you now. Now, that's the intro to the meeting and this item. Any thoughts or comments? Shane.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to join, first of all, in thanking the officers. This has been quite an intense piece of work, and I think that shouldn't be underestimated of putting this together, because it is quite a quick turnaround to do this, hence the special council meeting we've just had. And it is right, you also note that we've just had quite a rare unanimous vote in the chamber for option 5A. It is the best option for Gravesham and for Dartford, and we hope for Swanley and Stroud as well, to make sure that we are close to the community. It is fiscally sound. It does match up quite a lot of local areas that have, like health, for example, in Kent Police. So there is such a strong coalition already being built up around this option that I hope not only does it go forward, but it is selected as the preferred option, so that we can preserve the history and identity of the borough and boroughs, and with our neighbours work together more closely for local residents. That's what it should be about.
Deborah?
Yes, thank you. Yes, and again, thank you to everyone that put in all the hard work, with all the leaders and the officers in this report. And I believe that 5A is the less disruptive for the residents and for the services, including health, police, social services. And I think that the residents would welcome the fact that we are actually looking out for them in option 5A and maintaining that hands-on service delivery that we are proud of as borough councillors moving forward. Thank you.
Anybody else like to comment? No? We all good with that? So the recommendation is set out in the papers on page 3. I think the recommendation is very clear. I don't think we need to add to that. Are we all happy with the recommendation? Can we agree that? Thank you. That then takes us to item 6, apologies, on the agenda. Any other business? There's been none that's been notified to me, so we can move therefore to item 7, exclusion of the public, of which there are none. No items in part B. That's the end of the meeting. It's probably one of the quickest cabinets we've had. As if I talk less, you see, it works.
Thank you.